Hey guys, welcome to It's Not Me, It's You Breaking Up with Your Comfort Zone. I'm Jack Bettikelian, your coach, your hype person, and let's be honest, your new favorite instigator of personal growth. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about comfort zone red flags. The flags that you've been ignoring. So let's just jump right into it. You know how breakups always start with, it's not you, it's me? Yeah, not this one. This time it's definitely you. Comfort zone. We've been in this stagnant relationship for far too long. And frankly, it's not me holding us back, it's you. So let's talk about that comfort zone. You know, that cozy, predictable place where dreams go to take a nap and never wake up. It's like that ex who convinces you that things are fine the way they are, when deep down, you know you deserve more. And like any toxic relationship, it's been throwing red flags at you, but you've been ignoring them. So consider this your wake-up call. Think about it. When was the last time you did something that truly scared you in a good way? Not, oh no, I left the oven on, but more, wow, I can't believe I'm actually doing this scared. And how many times have you actually chosen comfort over exciting? How often do you find yourself doing the same things, having the same conversations, and avoiding risks like they carry an electric shock? Mind you, I would like that. If you're nodding along, then congratulations. You're in an unfulfilling relationship with your comfort zone. So how do you know when it's time to call it quits? Just like any bad relationship, your comfort zone will give off red flags. And today what we'll do is we'll actually expose a couple of these red flags and see if what I'm sharing will actually resonate with you or help connect some of the dots. Let's start. Okay. Red flag number one. You keep saying, I'll do it later. Pretty straightforward, right? I'll do it later. Everybody says it. But let's add some context to it. So, have you ever told yourself, I'll start the project when I have more time? I'll take that leap when I feel more prepared. Spoiler alert, that magical perfect time does not exist. Your comfort zone, just like that toxic ex, is whispering, don't rush, baby. Just stay right here where it's safe. Sorry, I'm not that good at being a toxic ex. But so let's do that again. Don't rush, baby. Just stay right here where it's safe. Meanwhile, what's happening? Well, this freak who just said what she said, your dreams are standing at the door with their bags packed, waiting for you to commit. So what happens here? When your comfort zone is actually involved or is influencing where you want to go, or the fact of the lack of readiness or the lack of wanting to go, what do? We start to self-sabotage. What do you mean by self-sabotage? So let's think about some of the sneaky ways that we're going to self-sabotage or that we do self-sabotage. This is one that I was very used to, and I still, to a certain extent. I'm not perfect, even though, I feel like I am sometimes. But have you ever convinced yourself, and like I said, I've done this quite often, that you work better under pressure? Well, here's the thing. You might say, or you might feel like you work better under pressure, but what is the reason why you work better under pressure? Or what is usually, the cause for this statement? I know in my case, I'll be doing something like binge watching Netflix until, the deadline is code red, emergency. Well, guess what? That, believe it or not, is a comfort zone red flag. It's the same thing as the, you know what, I'm going to start Monday. That I'll start Monday syndrome. Guess what? Monday never comes. At least not the Monday that's closest to you. So there's always going to be the next Monday. So when you think about it, and this is again, Mrs. Don't Rush Baby, your comfort zone is selling you, and she loves, could be a he, but I'm going to say she loves to sell you this lie wrapped in good intentions, and it's sprinkled with just the right amount of procrastination. Here's another one. It's happened to me. It's trapped me, actually, and it's a lesson learned that I am always very happy to share, with the hopes that those who hear what I share won't fall into that same trap. It's I just need one more certification, right? Have you ever convinced yourself, or think about it? Has it ever been something that has stopped you, as simple as saying, for example, I just need that one more course or certification, or I just want to finish this book before I commit? Guess what? Endless preparation is sophisticated procrastination in disguise. I'll give you an example, a simple example that I've seen time and time again. In today's day and age, a lot of people, and it's not just today, but it's been quite some time, people launch websites. And website launches take longer than they should. Why? Not because the website is not ready to be launched. Because of that trap. How many times that I myself personally have worked with clients to identify the situation where they are in this trap of, I am just one thing away. I just need to make sure. I'm just not ready. It's the trap of feeling convinced that you're at 99%, but you can't act. That, my friends, is procrastination in disguise behind this excuse. And for those of you who are feeling or who this actually resonates with, little advice, if I can share, and if you're always welcome to take it or leave it. You might not ever be fully ready, but if you want to know how ready you are, and if you want to be clear as far as if there are changes required, what changes you need to make, then you need to act. Because until you act, everything that is in your mind is still fictitious. It's so easy to fall down any rabbit hole. If you want to know where you are, if you want or are unsure, or if you really want to be able to improve, you need to take a step. There's no such thing as a fear of failure in that case. It is an opportunity for you to learn multiple things. One, to learn to say, I'm comfortable with the fact that I'm going to move forward and there may be changes required. And two, I am using this opportunity to see where and how I can improve. So I'm going to add an exercise here. So write it down if you'd like to, or as I'm updating the website, there will be a section in the website where you'll be able to download these types of tools or tips for future use. When it comes to what we're talking about right now, the red flag number one, which is the I'll do it later, the procrastination. Let's call this the someday intervention. Okay, let's make a list of three things you've been putting off because you've been waiting for the right time. And next to each of these things, write down the worst case scenario. What is the worst thing that could happen if you started today? First off, spontaneous combustion is not on the list, okay? So write down what is the worst thing that can happen. And then, once you're done with that, and don't just write anything, take the time to reflect and really challenge yourself. Then once you've written that down, take one micro step towards it. Pick one of these three and take a micro step, even if it's tiny. If it has to do with something as simple as, and I'll use a scenario of wanting to improve our physical self. Micro step. Inform yourself about signing up for a class or getting a gym membership or setting a deadline to when you would like to actually start this initiative. One thing, and you can quote me, but it's not like I'm making that it's coming out of my brain here. Action will beat overthinking every single time. If you're the kind of person who overthinks and you would like to improve in that area, it's very simple. Act. You only overthink when you have nothing to base yourself on. And it doesn't mean that you will not overthink after you act. But if you think of yourself as a mutated octopus, you don't just have 8 tentacles, you have 1,000 tentacles right now. When you act, you actually start to diminish the number. Try that out. Let's move on to another red flag. This one's fun. You're bored, but you just don't want to change, or you won't change. So let's take a step back here and let's think about this. Have you ever found yourself, for example, watching the same TV show for the 3rd time? Or you're scrolling social media aimlessly, or you're staring at the ceiling, which I don't like to do, it hurts my neck, but you're still staring at the ceiling saying, oh, my life is so dull. And yet, and I dare anybody to challenge me on this, and yet, when the opportunity arises, when something arises that will allow you to make or change this bored life that you're living or this dull life, what do? You back away. You back away like a chihuahua. I like chihuahuas. I like dogs. But why, if you think about it? You just backed away. You just finished saying that you're bored. You just finished saying life is so dull. And there's a good chance that if you believe life is so dull, you're already thinking of what a different life would look like. Well, now that you have your opportunity, then why are you backing away? Guess who? Baby, don't rush. It's that toxic ex. It's your comfort zone. She's keeping you in your cozy little cage. And let's not talk about that because that's a discussion that some of you may want to talk about. We can talk about that in a different rated type of podcast. But what is that? What just happened here? If you come back to it, you're bored, you have an opportunity, you don't change. What's going on, right? There are things, and I've heard this before, the excuse of, well, this is just who I am. What do you mean this is just who I am? So you're justifying the fact that you're complacent about the life that you have. And when an opportunity presents itself, you're not doing anything about it. You're using the excuse of this is just who I am. Growth isn't about changing who you are. It's about upgrading. It's about improving. Don't use the this is just who I am as an excuse to stay where you are. So let's talk about some signs that you can look for that would identify that you're actually settling for boredom. You daydream. You daydream about doing something exciting, but you never take action. Or you feel stuck in a rut, but you tell yourself, it's not that bad. What about you secretly admire people who take risks, but you convince yourself that you can't do the same? Now, I'm sure some of you are saying, well, no. I daydream about doing something, but it's not that I never take action. It's that, I need to do certain things or there are some things that are holding me back. Guess what, guys? We just spoke about this. What did we talk about in the someday intervention? What did we talk about when we were talking about red flag number 1? I will keep doing it. I will do it later. Excuse me. Maybe you should take a moment and think to yourself, am I self-sabotaging? Something to think about. So I'm going to give you an anecdote here. And it's about the time that I almost let boredom win. And look, it's normal. It's easy. It's easy to get bored. We want to get stimulated. We want to be good at something. And the moment we start to become good at something, or the moment we feel like we have met the need to be good at something, we allow what we're doing to fall into this is a normal activity. So it loses its actual value. So think about the time, and I'll share the time that I've almost let boredom win. And because of that, I resisted stepping out of my comfort zone. Actually, I don't even have a time that I almost let boredom win. No, I'm just joking. So throughout my career, I've been very lucky. Some people are going to say, you call that lucky, but I've had to work really, really hard. And I've had to learn a lot on the fly. And that is one of the things that has actually kept me so driven, because challenges are in my eyes, opportunities. I do not see them as something that will stop me. I see them as something to overcome. When it comes to challenges and when it comes to the career path that I took in a technical field early in my career, at some point I started to develop a rhythm that was very fast paced, and learning became something that was not only expected, but it was a need for me to feel fulfilled. So you can only imagine that as time goes on, the more you learn, the more experience you get, at some point you start to realize, uh-oh, this is very routine. I feel like I'm waking up, doing the same thing, going to sleep. And being someone, as I mentioned in my case, being someone who is very driven by stimulation, by the need for self-fulfillment, it becomes very difficult. It becomes difficult because there are two things that happen. First and foremost, it's the realization of pattern. It's the realization that this is something that is not fulfilling your need. And at first it becomes boredom. But then what happens? Boredom turns into lack of motivation. It turns into lack or loss of interest. And that can keep going further and further if we allow it to. What I did and what I had to do was be very fair with myself and understand that just like anything in life, we need to accept that there are going to be days where things will feel very repetitive. I don't want to say stagnant, but repetitive. And we can find other ways to deal with or get through those kind of days. What I do is I actually have, and I keep myself a log of personal projects. And when I say projects, I just want to clarify. When I say a personal project does not need to be something that takes 6 months. It could be something that is 3 days. It could be anything. It is an objective. Maybe even the use of the word project was a little too large. So let's restate that and say it might be a fun idea to have yourself a little list or a log of objectives, which is something you can fall back on when you find yourself in this boredom situation. I kind of led into an exercise. I can't even share an idea of an exercise, but let's add an exercise here. So we're going to call it the boredom buster. And the purpose of this exercise, of course, is we want to identify a small way, a simple, small way that we can shake up our routine. And identify it as, or, as I mentioned, you can keep it as a log or a little document or a little notepad. I mean, there's nothing, nobody can say, there's no way for me to capture what I want to say. You've got a cell phone, you've got a computer, you've got a paper, you can cut your finger and write on your pants with blood, whatever it is. Identify that one small way you can shake up your routine. And it could be something as simple as taking a new route to work, or trying a new hobby, or here's a good one, changing your lunch order. A lot of people are not going to like that, but try it, right? And what's the goal behind it? The goal is to prove to yourself that even a small change can lead to a bigger transformation. And it's also to prove to yourself that applying or acting on a small change can help you deal with those days where, or those could be more than days, those situations where you are feeling bored. So let's go on to another one. Hope you're liking these. And as I mentioned, your comment, your feedback is very important to me, because what I share comes from experience. It comes from my hopes to connect and to better equip you with tools, techniques to improve, to transform. So let's get on to red flag number 3. Red flag number 3. You're envious of others' risks. Here's a fun one. So, you see someone on Instagram who's quit their job so that they can travel and launch a business, or they're trying stand-up comedy, and instead of cheering them on, you mutter, "Must be nice." Let's be real. If you feel envy, first off, I want to challenge you, and I want you to remember this. The only real difference between them and you is they broke up with their comfort zone. While you're still in this committed relationship with, whatever, I was about to actually try to to be her voice, but while you're still stuck in this committed relationship, they took that step. And I want you to think about this for a second. Envy. It's a clue. Why is envy a clue? Well, envy isn't a bad thing. Envy is information. Now think about it. You want to do something, and you are being held back by any of, or a multitude of these red flags. What is envy? Well, envy is your subconscious that's pointing out what you secretly want, but you haven't given yourself permission to pursue. Envy is actually you telling yourself and holding yourself accountable for not having done what you've been talking about doing for so long. How does that sound? Does that make sense to you guys? I'm going to give you an exercise, because I think this red flag is fairly straightforward. Let's talk about, we're going to call it the envy audit. 3 people. Make a list of 3 people you admire. Now ask yourself, what risks did they take to get where they are today? Now, once you're done answering that question, just one more question. Reread what your answer is, and then ask yourself this question. What's stopping me from doing the same? I have a hint for you if you're not sure. It rhymes with Bumfort Bone. Let's go to red flag number 4. This is a fun one. You fear looking stupid more than staying stuck. I'm going to say it again. You fear, or your fear is more around looking stupid than staying stuck. So I don't see anybody, but raise your hand if you've avoided doing something just because you might mess up in front of people. If you actually raised your hand, well, congrats. You're already ahead because you just did something weird in public. I'll give you an anecdote here. And, what is the biggest thing? Again, just like we were saying before, what is the worst thing that could happen by trying to do something? So I'm going to talk about the time I embarrassed myself. One of the times, because I've embarrassed myself multiple times, and it's what makes me who I am. It's what makes people love me, because it becomes fun. It's a funny story, and I've learned to actually enjoy and go with the flow. So one of the times, and for those of you who know me, I've got a condition. I'm going to call it a condition because I don't even know what else to call it. From a young age, when I felt nervous, and I know whoever is listening is already smiling, they know. Actually, yes, you know what? I'm going to give my condition a name out of respect for a comedian that I absolutely love. I've got Joe Gatto syndrome. And what's Joe Gatto syndrome? So Joe Gatto is the first person that I've actually seen who lives through what I used to live through, which is when I would get nervous, where some people's ears would turn red, or they might have, a nervous tick or a twitch, or, cheeks would turn red. Me, it's very simple. This right here. This was my telltale sign. My upper lip would sweat. And it wouldn't just sweat. Let's be honest. It would flood. We're talking like if I was able to distend my jaw, I would be drinking cups of sweat. That's how bad it would be. And I'll bring it to this time that it wasn't just embarrassing, and I'm laughing because when I think about it, what are you going to do? But I had to survive. So early in my career, young age, I've got, aspirations to grow and to get to another level, and I'm interviewing for a job that is actually going to fill this need, this want. It's a role that allows me to take advantage of my experience and put that together with my creativity and my ability to lead. So now I'm transitioning from, at the time, what I saw was an employee to a director with staff and with vision and a key player in the direction of an enterprise, of a business. And what do? So I walk in for this interview, and I can just share with you, when I'm thinking back to the interview, there was a lot of pressure. And why? Because this meant a lot to me. I wanted this role. I worked hard for it. And I believed at that time that I was worthy of it. And there's no role that I'm not worthy of. I'll tell you that right now. But we're talking about 30 years ago, when I'm still figuring myself out. And I walk in there, and the thoughts that are going on in my head are, what if I don't answer to their satisfaction? What if I am asked a question that I can't answer? What happens if I look stupid? And I'm allowing myself mentally to already be in this state of of purgatory where I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm actually juicing myself up for this, right? Now I sit and I meet with this VP and we're talking. And as we start talking, I'm allowing that I'm allowing her to still talk to me in my ear as opposed to kicking her out of my head. And what happens, he starts talking about something that just catches me off guard. It's something that I was not prepared for. Now, if you're ever in a position where you're asked a question that you're not prepared for, that you don't know the answer, guys and gals, it's so simple. The response is, it's a great question. I would like to get back to you, but give me some time. Or I haven't thought of that, or, is there anything you can share? There's nothing wrong with being transparent and honest about whether or not you know something. Coming back to 30 years ago, and I've got Senorita, like she's ear effing me. So he catches me off guard, and that was all it took. It was like a button was pressed. And I went from feeling like I'm navigating and I'm able to hold myself well in this conversation to, oh no, there's a hole in my armor. And then what happens? So now, as I'm talking, and please, if you want, you can close your eyes. It's like a faucet that is leaking. So as I'm talking, it hits me. Oh no. Sweat is just beating and it's falling. And before I know it, as I'm talking, I'm doing this. And the more I do this, the worse it gets. So I get to the point where I don't even know. I wish I could see myself because it's just something that I can't imagine. But when I was in the situation, I literally felt like this whole thing was a waterfall. And I've turned red. I've started sweating as well from my forehead, and I sweat everywhere. But this is almost like I've allowed myself to get into a fight or flight mode. And then what happens? If you think all of what I just told you is embarrassing, this is where I get embarrassed. The VP stops, looks at me with a very serious face and says, "Are you okay? Do you want me to call the nurse?" So if I thought I was going through it before, imagine what that did. Do you know what I did? I got up and left. Felt like the world was over. And I was cursing my upper lip. And I was trying to get rid of the sweat, but it kept coming down and I couldn't get to my car fast enough. But you know what? Telling this story for me is a memory. It's a funny memory. I definitely felt ridiculous, but I've ultimately grown from it. So I hope you enjoy that story. Man, I think I might just sweat just for the sake of old times. So if you're done laughing at my embarrassing story, I would like to propose an exercise. So let's call this one the Foolproof Failure Plan, FFP. For this exercise, just pick one thing you've been avoiding out of fear or fear of embarrassment, and do it in private first. I'm smiling because, I would do it even regardless, but So pick one thing. Example, you want to dance like a fool? Well, do it in the living room. Or practice a presentation. Practice it in front of the mirror. Or you can film yourself trying something new. Nothing wrong with doing that. To be quite honest, as far as recording, there, and I'm sure many of you are going to say it, the moment you have to think about, or if you allow yourself to be distracted by something else around you, it could take away from you being your authentic self, because here you are, you could be saying something as simple as, well, I need to be conscious of the camera. I need to be conscious of the microphone and where it's placed. I need to be conscious of my voice and the volume in which I'll speak. Same thing applies for anything else you're going to do. If you're going to have a presentation, whether or not you want to admit it, the thoughts of, I need to try to be conscious of my audience. I need to try to ensure that I make eye contact with people. I need to show that I am actually not a robot and that I do have communication skills. So doing something like the exercise of doing something in private first actually helps with diminishing any of those thoughts. It will actually help you moving forward, because what you're doing, whether you realize it or not, is, and even though this is the best part, even though it's in the privacy of your own home, you are preparing yourself to remove any of the stressors or the triggers from having to do it in public. Okay, so we talked about 4 red flags here. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Coming back to our red flags, what did we talk about? We spoke about the fun thing of, I'll do it later. So the sneaky ways that we're going to self-sabotage, where we allow ourselves to believe and get influenced, if you will, by comfort zone, where we're unknowingly, I'm going to be nice about it, unknowingly allowing comfort zone to sell us this lie of what we're doing is best for us, when in reality, what's happening is we are just justifying reasons to procrastinate. Okay, so we spoke about boredom as well, right? So the fact of being bored but not wanting to change, being complacent about life being so dull, and yet opportunity arises and not doing anything about it. We also spoke about envy and how envy could actually be, or is actually, a good thing, because it in itself is information. It's a clue. It's your subconscious that's pointing out that you yourself secretly want, but haven't given yourself permission to pursue something. And of course, the final red flag, which is the fun one for me at least, the fear of looking stupid. So looking stupid, and ask yourself this question. Actually, forget about asking yourself this question. How would you feel if somebody said, so you're willing to accept status quo because you're more concerned about somebody else's view on how you look? Does that really make sense? So what's the takeaway here? Growth. Growth isn't about dramatic leaps. It's about small, consistent steps. Your comfort zone, even though she isn't evil, she's still clingy. And like any breakup, in this case, you don't have to go cold turkey. You just have to start taking these small steps. The small steps that will allow for you to gradually become this new, improved, and hopefully adventurous version of yourself. One last thing. You know what? Now that we're there, let's I'm going to challenge you one. So if you choose to accept this mission, I want you to think about one comfort zone red flag. Write it down and ask yourself, is this red flag a habit? Is it a thought pattern? Is it a convenient excuse? Call it out. And then write it down and issue yourself the permission to take one small step. So that being said, that's a wrap on today's episode. The great news, this is just the beginning. If you had an aha moment, if you laughed, you felt personally attacked, hopefully in the best way, of course, share this with somebody who needs to hear it. Don't forget, growth might be awkward, but come on, so saying stuck. It's even worse to stay stuck. It's like asking me to say stay stuck 5 times. I'm going to lose it. In this case, growth, yeah, might be awkward, but guess what? You're the one who's going to get to choose what discomfort you want. Do you want to live with the discomfort of staying where you are? Or would you live with and be open to seeing what discomfort could come from becoming your next self? Catch you next time. Subscribe, comment, share. Love you guys.